If you use AI seriously, you've built a quiet habit without noticing. You save the expensive model for the hard problems and run everything else on something cheaper because frontier intelligence costs double. This morning, Anthropic killed that habit. Claude Opus 5 is out today at half the price of their flagship, Fable 5. And on Anthropic's own comparison table, the half price model takes the top score on 7 of 12 benchmarks and splits an eighth. There's also a setting buried in those charts that most people will get wrong on day one, where turning effort up actually makes results worse. I'll show you exactly where. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what Opus 5 wins. The 4 places it still loses. Because that matters. The effort dial trick, hiding in Anthropic's own curves, and the exact switches to flip on claude.ai in Claude Code and on the API today. Every number in this video comes straight from the announcement published this morning. The facts first. July 24th. Claude Opus 5 goes live on every surface. Claude.ai, Claude Code, Claude Cowork, and the API. Pricing. $5 per million input tokens, 25 per million output. That's identical to the old Opus 4.8 and exactly half of Fable 5. It's the new default model on the Max plan and the strongest model you can get on Pro. There's a fast mode too, about 2.5 times the speed, at twice the price. Anthropic's own pitch is careful. Close to Fable 5's frontier intelligence at half the price. But their charts say something bolder than their pitch. This is the comparison table from the announcement. Opus 5 against Fable 5, the old Opus 4.8, and OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Soul model. Watch the highlights. Terminal coding, 43.3%. The flagship gets 33.7. Knowledge work, scored across real professions, 1861, highest on the board. Agentic search, 90.8. Computer use, 70.6, against the flagship's 66. Business workflows, 26%, roughly 1.5 times any other model on the table. Reasoning with tools, 64.7, on top again. Biology, top score twice. 7 rows outright, 1 split. The cheaper model is winning. Now the part most videos will skip, where it loses. Same table, same page. On one agentic coding benchmark, DeepSVG, OpenAI's GPT 5.6, Sol is still ahead, 72.7 versus 68.8. On frontier code, Fable 5 edges it by a tenth of a point. Legal work and health, still not its crown. And on cybersecurity, Opus 5 stays deliberately behind Anthropic's restricted Mythos 5. More on that in a minute. That's the honest picture. And it's exactly why the wins mean something. One benchmark deserves its own moment. ARC-AGI 3 tests novel problems. Puzzles. A model has never seen anything like. Where memorizing the internet doesn't help. The old Opus 4.8 scored 1.5%. GPT 5.6 Soul 7.8. Opus 5 30.2. Anthropic says that's 3 times the next best model anywhere. This is the number closest to the thing you actually care about. Can it figure out something it was never trained on? From 1.5 to 30 in one generation. Now the setting everyone will get wrong. Opus 5 has an effort dial, low, medium, high, X high, max. And Anthropic published a performance versus cost curve for each benchmark. 2 things jump out of those curves. First, on business workflows, Opus 5 at its lowest effort already passes more tasks than any competitor at any effort. Its cheap mode beats their best mode. Second, look closely at the coding curves. At max effort, the score actually dips slightly below X high, And it does that on two separate charts. More thinking is not automatically better thinking. So here's the rule: high for daily work, X high when it's genuinely hard, and stop assuming max is the smart choice. Here's what the announcement shows. This looks like on real tasks. Three examples. 1. Opus 5 was asked to rebuild a machine part as a 3D model from a technical drawing, but was given no way to actually view the drawing. So it wrote its own computer vision pipeline, pulled the geometry out of the raw pixels, and rebuilt the part repeatedly. Competing models went 0 for 5. 2. Handed a real bug in a popular open source package manager. It found the root cause and fixed an edge case the community's human patch had missed. 3. A trading firm engineer asked for a market data feed for a brand new exchange. There was no live feed to test against, so it built its own test harness to validate the code. Notice the pattern. It doesn't just do the work, it checks the work. And this, on screen right now, is Anthropic's own launch demo. Opus 5 built a working wind tunnel. Airflow simulated live over any object you give it. Early testers are reporting the same jump. Valtown calls it the best animations, games, and 3D work an Opus model has ever produced. Visual output took a real step up this generation. Quick math on your time. That was 6 benchmarks, 4 honest losses, 3 case studies, and a launch demo in about 5 minutes. Verifying that announcement took me the whole morning. If that trade works for you, here's how you back it. On YouTube, hit join and become a member. On Facebook, subscribe is the supporter button. That's what keeps this running. And a free YouTube subscribe helps too. Second half: what early businesses actually measured and your exact setup. Companies with early access published their numbers today, and there's a theme hiding inside them. Lovable. 22% better on their hardest coding tasks than the previous Opus, with far less variance between runs. Box. 8% better overall, 17% better on due diligence. Citadel. 9 points more accurate, with a third fewer turns and 60% less time. Goldman Sachs. Their strongest Opus ever on a trading benchmark, using 1/7 of the reasoning tokens at under half the latency. Thomson Reuters. Same quality, 26% fewer tokens. Read the theme. Better answers. And smaller bills. For anyone paying per token, that second part is the headline. And the testers keep describing the same behavior. Not smarter answers, better judgment. Framers benchmark. Opus 5 opened its own finished pages at desktop and phone widths, caught a product hidden below the mobile fold and a checkout button sitting off screen, and fixed both before handing the work back. At Scale AI, an engineer pushed a design on it, and it didn't fold. It narrowed its objection to a single question and proposed a compromise that kept the good part of his idea. Replight says it verifies branches and thinks through tests before handing off a pull request. That's the difference between a model that answers questions and a model you can leave alone with the work. 2 more results, because trust is the whole game if you're leaving it alone with work. On Anthropic's automated behavioral audit, Opus 5 scored 2.3 on misaligned behavior, the lowest of any recent Claude. Least deceptive, hardest to trick into misuse, most careful about actions that are hard to reverse. And on security, Anthropic deliberately didn't train it on offensive cyber skills. It can find software vulnerabilities almost as well as their restricted Mythos 5, but stays far behind at turning them into exploits. Meanwhile, the safety filters fire about 85% less often than Fable 5's. And if a request does get flagged, it falls back to Opus 4.8 instead of just failing on you. Now the part you can do the minute this video ends. On claude.ai, If you're on Max, you're already done. Opus 5 is your new default. On Pro, open the model picker and select Opus 5. It's now the strongest model your plan offers. In Claude Code, type /model, pick Opus 5, and set effort to high for daily work, X high for the hard stuff. On the API, the model ID is Claude-Opus-5, $5 in, 25 out. And two beta features shipped alongside it. You can now change a conversation's tools mid-flight without breaking your prompt cache, and automatic fallbacks, so a flagged request routes to another model instead of erroring out. Then update your routing rule. This is the money part. Opus 5 becomes the daily default for everything serious. Fable 5 drops back to being a specialist. You call it for that last 0.5% on the very hardest problems. The small models keep the bulk jobs, where cost wins. And remember the computer use chart. Opus 5 beat Fable's best score at a third of the cost per task. Same monthly budget, roughly double the delivered intelligence. That's the trade that changed this morning. I've packed all of this into a free one-page kit. The full 12 benchmark table with the wins and the losses marked, the effort dial cheat sheet, the routing rule, the API snippet with both beta flags, and the 5-minute setup for every surface. Comment the word Opus 5, all one word, and my bot sends it straight to you. Free, as always. Real talk. 90% of you watching haven't subscribed. On Facebook, subscribe is the supporter button. That is what keeps the lights on here. On YouTube, it's free and it tells the algorithm to send you more. Subscribe to support us. And if you're just getting started with Claude or ChatGPT, my step-by-step beginner guides are linked below. Here's what actually changed today. Yesterday, Frontier Intelligence was a luxury you rationed, a model you saved for special occasions. Tonight, it's just the default. Everyone gets it. Which means the edge is no longer having the smart model. It's being the person who points it at real work first. Comment Opus 5 for the free kit. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram as Hyperautomation Labs. See you in the next one.